Good morning. It is really nice out there today. Um, it it's warm. I think we're somewhere. Let me see what the temperature is. I know I'm starting a little bit earlier. My Wi-Fi has been on and off this morning. I've got everything run. I got everything turned off. All the TVs in the house are turned off. I'd like to try to do a little small lunchtime thing. Temperature right now 45 degrees. Let me see, I got a message from somebody. Gotta see what my message is. Oh, Costco is going to start serving Coca-Cola products in its food courts. Well, that's good to know. I don't drink it. I just quit drinking it this year, but who knows? While I was out there and I needed sugar, I would turn to me a cup of, I'd drink a bottle of Coke to get the sugar I need. Well, that's good. Let me see. Don't mind me. I'm just catching up on the latest news. I saw I had a voicemail. Let's see who that voicemail is from.
You have one unheard message.
Wow.
First unheard message. Hello, this is Eye Care Associates. Our team was looking forward to meeting you at your recently scheduled eye exam appointment. Please call us back anytime to reschedule that.
Yeah, I had an eye appointment scheduled for.
End of message.
Okay.
Delete. Press 7.
All right.
Deleted. End.
Okay. We got that taken care of. All the important business has been done. Well, I see one person showed up, and that is good. You got to start somewhere. And we'll start with the very first person. See how long they last. You got to have endurance to stay on Old Mack's show, because he might take you into another world. Oh, that person went away. They go, oh no, not another dose of Old Mack. He makes me feel old. So, beginning of a new fresh week. Um, had a great week last week. It was cold, but hey, that's what winter's all about. I mean, I'm trying to enjoy every cold day that we have because we know about the middle of April, we're going to be like, oh my God, another 6 months of this. Ah, please help me, the heat. My motorcycle really likes the cool air, the coolness. When I ride on it, it's happy. It's spunky. I think we're going to go for a ride. I said I was going to go for a ride Thursday, but I'm looking at the weekend. It's going to be all sunshine, Saturday and Sunday. So one of those 2 days, I might take a nice long ride. I don't know. That's subject to change. Oh, let me see. Anybody want to get in here? Well, Go ahead and hop on up in here. I went over and checked. I saw Sick and Motorbomb and Buck Brown. They was still doing their morning coffee. This is when my internet came on. That was 5 or 6 minutes ago. And well, I thought I won't bother them. I'll just come over here and quietly do my little Monday lunch. Now, I'll be going to be dependent on you guys to bring me a subject, something that we can expound upon. I listened to them between internet failures, the boys over there on the coffee show. They was talking about metrics, kilometers, meters, liters, milliliters. Man, it can be confusing, especially a poor boy from the coal mining regions of Alabama to have to be in the world of metrics. As a ham operator, everybody fights the metric system, but as a ham radio operator, all of my antennas are all measured in metrics. 20-meter antenna, 40-meter antenna, 75-meter antenna. We have great debates about being on the 75-meter band or the 80-meter band. All the old folks always like to talk about getting on the 80-meter band. And I'd remind them they're at 75 meters. And they go, well, no, it says on my radio 80 meters. Well, actually, the area where you're talking is at 75 meters. And they would debate it with you back and forth. So there are going to be people that debate almost on any subject. If you have limited knowledge about it, you tend to debate more about it. And conversations about things you don't know about is a good conversation, because sometimes you can come away from one of those conversations with a little bit more knowledge. That's the way I like to think about it. Where you have a conversation where your opinion is stifled or altered or amended, or just fear factor where you can't speak your mind, you garner no knowledge. In fact, you can build up resentment. We used to have at the company, we'd have these meetings. They were open meetings. And what they do, they would invite people from cross organizations, say like within the military division, you have the Navy entity with the projects that you're working on for the Navy. You have your Air Force stuff that you work on with the Navy. You got your Army, Marine Corps, other services. And we'd have meetings about a product that we were developing that would be serving all branches of the military. And so we'd invite department heads from different organizations to come in and sit in on our meeting. And we would have like flow chart issues, where we wasn't moving the product along the assembly line as expected by the Pentagon. And so people would come in and sit down and listen to wherever the bottleneck is. Let's say the bottleneck was in the production of an item. Those people had levels of expertise in different fields, and they could contribute to how we could overcome the bottleneck and to move and make the flow move efficiently. And we had time study people that would come in and do time study, where they would they would bring in their team of experts when it comes to properly using your time, making sure there's no fraud, waste, and abuse of the corporation's time. And yeah, they measured everything. How long it took a welder to change his bottles out. In other words, if the welder was taking too long of changing his acetylene, or maybe his oxygen, or his nitrogen, or maybe his helium, or whatever, his argon, whatever he was having an issue with. The bottles are pretty heavy. Some of the big bottles on some of the big systems weigh like 275 pounds. And for years, men always put their arms around the tank, lift it up and set it using your back and your arms. You would set that tank onto the machine. But what they've done is, out of 100,000 worker hours, they found, by developing a little cart that the welder could put the bottle in and turn the crank 3 or 4 revolutions, lift the bottle up, and just slide it into its position, saved on injuries. It was quicker. Because before you lift a big weight, you got to make sure that your feet are secure. You're in a level where you're not going to slip on a welding rod, land on the floor or something. So, yeah, the cart thing really, and that came from suggestions that was in these meetings. And they implemented it, and it turned out good. Turned out really pain-saving effort, keep people from having to suffer no more than they need to suffer. A lot of people don't realize, once you flip that hood down, when you're welding, you're inside in this world, that your whole entire life is focusing on that puddle in the weld. If you're a true welder, you concentrate your effort in this weld that you're doing to achieve the level, either it's X-ray quality, magnaflux, dye penetrant, whatever level of quality you're going to produce. Only the welder can see what goes on in that puddle, unless he's got somebody looking over his shoulder with glasses. And a welder spends his life inside that helmet, and all the effort and all the help you can give him to be able to make his life a little bit more bearable is greatly appreciated. And they don't have very many spokesmen. Good. Train is officially in. Well, this is now lunchtime, so now I'm officially in my lunchtime of Old Mack and Angelique. I started up early because I didn't know if I'd even be able to get on, and I thought I'd test it, see how long it let me stay on, and it's looking good. Uh-oh, something came up. Something with the mic. Oh, I guess my audio must have went away or something. I saw an issue of my audio. Anybody having a hard time hearing me, let me know, and I can certainly improve that. I can turn that crap off. Yeah, I tried to watch some TV last night. I had a couple of things I wanted to watch, and doggone thing kept going off on me. It would lose the Wi-Fi. Little circle, the little buffered in wheel was spinning around. kind of feel naked without my hat on. I thought I'd just, when I get up in the morning after I take my shower, I have air dried it before, but a lot of times I just let it dry and then I'll brush it out, take all the tangles out of it. And this morning it was no exception. So I just kind of brush my hair, and sometimes when I want to get on the air real quickly, I'll stick a hat on my head because my hair is still wet. I didn't want to go out there and take the hair dryer, and heat my head up. A lot of people's got a lot of hopes for February. I ain't too far off. Come first of next week, we're going to be into a new month. They're going to be NASCAR starting up. There's going to be all kinds of, sports, I guess. Yeah, we got, they've already got it positioned, I guess, Super Bowl thing coming up pretty soon where they going to find out who's going to go to the Super Bowl. I kind of gave up on TV after my wife passed. We took all that out. No dish, no direct, or none of that stuff because we didn't have enough of a signal out here to maintain. Even though we had a dish up on the roof, we still have one up there. It wasn't efficient. If it rained, signal went away, and it's been an ongoing struggle to just keep TV on here. So we gave it up because I was paying like $250, no, $150 a month to get service out here with Dish. And it was service whenever they let me have it. Even though it's coming from a satellite, it was not always good. You couldn't always depend on 4K, or it would reduce you down to where you were seeing old digitized looking crap, and you can call and complain about it, and they go, well, we sent a technician out there, but he can't do nothing for you. Okay. Y'all heard that same whining and complaining story about my effort to get good quality service out here for a long time. My buddy Joe called me and he told me, he said, they bring in cable on your road. And after a little bit of talking with them, they're not bringing the cable out on my road. They're bringing cable out on another county road, which is my road runs into that road, but they never come up my road. There's only 7 houses on my road. And they won't ever be spending that kind of money to serve 7 houses. We're going to have today beef stew. I made it yesterday, and I had a bowl of it yesterday. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I used the sirloin tip, and then I cut it up in bite size, and I braised it. I used a special seasoning I have, sort of marinated in it, and then I rolled it in flour. I put it in a vat and shook it up real good, and I fried that in olive oil, fried the beef. And then I added my beef stock, a quart of beef stock to the pot. And then I put my petite diced up tomatoes and my onions, potatoes, and everything, and started building it up. And we've already, from experience, the potatoes we have takes quite a while I don't like mushy potatoes. I want mine to have a little bit of a firmness to it. And to get them to that consistency, it takes quite a while to bring them to that consistency. Oh, it turned out so good. And we had cornbread, but I was going to save some cornbread for the day. But hell, we'd end up eating a whole pound of cornbread. Me and Angelique, there was yesterday. She asked me, she says, you want that other half of that cornbread?" And we'll divide it up. I said, "Sure." And it was so good. Hard for me to turn down cornbread. Good cornbread. One time we went camping with some good friends of ours, and this good friend had a new wife, and the new wife uh, was learning how to cook. And she said, "I'm going to make us some cornbread tonight so we can have cornbread and milk around the campfire." Oh, Lord. She brought out this cornbread this thick, and it was like hardtack. She didn't put flour in it. She was mostly cornmeal, maybe a little bit of flour to hold it together, but it didn't have no, it wasn't that thick. I like big, thick cornbread with a crust. And when somebody offers you a piece of cornbread, you're not going to go, "Oh, Lord, this is the worst stuff I ever eat in my life." Well, I'm telling you, 50 years later, that was some bad cornbread. Uh, but we crunched it, and it was nighttime. So when everybody was doing something around the campfire there, I tossed mine over into the sea, Pacific Ocean, right there at Cannon Beach. uh, The little fishes eat the cornbread. Well, I don't have the talent to be able to play a guitar or any musical instrument. I have no musical ear. Just kind of hear. I just don't know music. I did take music in school, and that was a lot of fun because I love my teacher, Miss Johnson. Her husband was the postmaster in our town, a much beloved person, and she, as a teacher, was much beloved by all of us. All of us coal mining kids, we loved Mrs. Johnson. We had to learn how to play what was that? The piccolo, or the little plastic, not a kazoo, but a little long thing about this had a little flared bell. We had to learn how to play that. Beep. We had to learn how to play the musical notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And then we have to do the reverse scale. I drove my family crazy, me going around blowing that thing until somebody took it away from me and tossed it into the woods. I didn't want to hear it no more. Piccolo, I guess it was. I don't remember. That was 70 years ago, 75 years ago. I was, yeah, 75 years ago. Ain't that something? 75 years ago. What was you doing 75 years ago? I was learning how to play music. Those are some of the best school years of all. I remember going into school, and we had one room that I was in had first and third grade was in the same class. And not first and second, but first and third. there was a reason for that. But they had the alphabet all the way around the room. You know, they had uppercase and lowercase. And back in our days, we had to learn cursive writing. And she would, oh my, well, I'm getting a lot of messages now. We had to learn the alphabet, and she was so good about teaching us the sounds of the vowels and stuff. Little coal mining kids. Let me see what my phone was getting all excited about. Oh, uh-huh. Kia is going to recall 80,000 vehicles. So if you bought yourself a Kia, you may have to take it in for service. Oh, scientific world has found oxygen where it should not be. Well, the crowd is pretty slim today, slim to none. I had one person give me a thumbs up. Take a look at this right here, folks. That is stainless steel. Look at the great details of it. That looks like, I think it's like a barracuda. See them teeth? This was cut on a water jet machine. It's half-inch stainless steel. And it was cut with water and no sanding. You can see the finish. There's no ripples. You don't see any, like if it's cut with a blowtorch or a saw, there would be marks. No, nothing, just smooth as silk here. And the sharpness, look at the point. This was cut by my nephew, Connie's. And he made this for me many years ago. You can see the way the scales, the depth of the scales are really thick. All the way through that. So many, look how fine the edges are. That is truly, when I was a little boy, almost 85 years ago, if you told me that they could cut stainless steel with water so precise, I'd say, oh, that's bullshit. And then they tell me 85 years ago that they could take a laser and go into my eyeball and cut little holes all inside my eyeball to improve my vision. I go, oh, I couldn't believe it. But it's real. LASIK surgery. I maintained for 71 years Jaeger J1 acuity. Any of you guys, fighter pilots, anybody out there that flew, or any space people, your astronauts, you have to have a minimum of Jaeger J1 acuity for depth of field, distance sight. And I maintained all that. When I got diabetes, the curvature of my eyeball changed with the diabetes. And they told me last year, they said, we can correct that. So I used to have to put my glasses on for almost everything. I got a pair of glasses I use for if I want to look at something like this right here, like fine print, that real fine print right there. I can put these on and I can read that fine print, because when they did my change the curvature of my eyeball with this laser, they gave me an 18-inch field of view. In other words, I can see from 18 inches on. I can read that's the screen is 3 or 4 feet over there. Well, I can tell you how many feet it is. When I sit here and I'm talking to you, got my trusty Dusty. I'll show you how far it is. This is where I'm sitting. The screen that I'm reading or writing on is 46 inches from my face. Right. Well, actually, if I go to my face, it'll be even further. All right. That's 48 inches. It's 48 inches from where my eyeballs are to where the writing is over on the text on the screen. And I have no trouble reading that at all with just my eyeballs. Nobody cares about stuff like that, but those people that may care about stuff like that is those that's having the issues that I had with diabetes, where I had my optics and everything is really good. But the curvature of the eyeball is, if you take a lens and a camera, you notice the fisheye has a really big curvature on the fisheye lens. On the rest of them, they're more of not as quite as curved, lesser curved, and so your field of view is quite a bit affected. So when the eyeball protrudes and gets bigger, then you begin to lose your depth of field and clarity and all that stuff. So for anybody that may be suffering eye deficiency due to diabetes, there are hope. Get with your eye specialist, and they may recommend LASIK surgery for you as well. No pain medication, nothing. You lay up there, the machine comes over your head, and it puts a beam of light. And I think I had 14 holes put in to change the curvature. When they put the laser beam in there, it reshapes the curvature of the eyeball. They knew exactly. They did a grid. They looked and they knew exactly how many holes would be needed to reshape my eyeball so it'd have the focal length that would be needed to see unassisted without glasses. It worked for me, and it may work for you. I don't know. Just something you should talk with your doctor about. Well, I'm going to call her and ask her if she would bring me a bowl of beef stew, because I intend to eat it right here in front of you. I'm just out of the way.
Hey, I was just getting up to go start heating up the soup.
Oh, you beat me to it. And once again, you beat me to it. You know what I was calling about.
Yes, I did. Do you want more tea with that?
Yeah, I want tea.
I figured you would, but I still thought I would ask.
Okay, and
we ate the cornbread yesterday, so that's cool.
I know we ate the cornbread, didn't we?
Yeah.
All right, honey. All right, just go ahead and heat it up, and I'll be ready. And we got 2-4 just come in to join us. Let me get over and talk with him.
All right, hold on. Before you do you want me to add some more beef broth to it?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to need it. You look and see. You answer that when you when you put it in the pot, it'll start to dissolve all it on its own. And, and give me less beef today. I ate a lot of beef yesterday, and this
I didn't get it. Even though I just did mine, I didn't get enough.
You can take all the beef you want.
I'll take care of it.
All right, but just give me less beef today. All right, thanks.
Less beef, more stew, more broth.
More taters, more carrots, and all that good
more
stuff.
Veg.
Boy, that's it. Thanks. All right, bye-bye.
Get back to 2-4, bye.
Bye. Oh, yeah, I'll tell him hello for you. All right. 2-4, Angelique said, hello. She said, be sure to tell 2-4 hello. And
you were saying something just as I hung up.
I was talking to, I was telling 2-4 that you said hello.
Oh, okay. Hi.
She'd go. Oh, you heard her. Okay. Yeah, these little phones put out quite a bit of volume. Anyhow, made it yesterday, 2-4, and I thought about a beer. When she asked me, do I want my tea? The reason being, I want to finish off the last bit of that jug. I buy that tea by the gallon. I know she'll be making her own. It's been an on and off day for us here. Our TV's been off, then it's been on. You unplug it and that resets it for a little while. But see, any the fact that my modem is plugged up with too much information, which does happen. You do literally have to unplug them occasionally. The fact remains, I just don't have any signal coming from the tower. I went over and looked. I don't have but 1 bar, and most time when I've got my best signal, I only get 2 bars. There's 5 bars on the amount of signal coming in. On my very best day, I only have 2 bars. And when it goes below 1, then it says, unplug and wait for it to come back on and all that crap. I ain't going to whine about it. It is what it is. You learn to get used to it. Well, how about yourself, buddy? How's Nova Scotia treating you? Are you ready to become our 51st state? We're going to treat you folks just like the folks in Arkansas. If you come in, if we do finally y'all give in, throw in the towel, and you become our 51st state, we're going to refer to Nova Scotia as Arkansas. That's where the hillbillies are. Yeehaw! Oh, let me tell you about internet. I was talking to my niece and nephew. Well, I chatted with them. They're out there in the ocean, out in the Sea of Cortez right now. But when they do a live feed, you might have been on when Sheila, my niece, was running the camera, and she turned it so we could see the ships and all the other stuff off of the distant islands and stuff as they were zipping along. I think about 8 knots or whatever in the breeze, 14 knots maybe. You got to keep in mind that's got to go from the camera that she is recording with up into the they're probably using Skylink or something like that, but some satellite system. Satcom, when you've got when you're aboard a sailing vessel and you got your Satcom, oh my God, you think you pay a lot every month for a telephone. If you have like Elon Musk has the Skylink thing there, you got it on your boat. It ain't like just you get that for $149 a month. Oh no, it's very expensive. And just the units you got on your boat is really expensive, the antenna system. So when they go live for us, the sacrifice and all that kind of stuff to do that for us, that's really great. You don't ever see them on a live show for 2 or 3 hours broadcasting. You would have to have some chump change, man, to be able to stay for 2 or 3 hours on a satcom. Hello, Robert. I hope life is good for you, Robert. It certainly is for me. And there's Mr. Motorbomb. Yeah, I watched you guys, you and Sick and Buck Brown. I was going to make a comment. I watched you on right here. I can see you on the phone. So I was going to comment, and then I seen my signal come on over there on the I had internet came on. I go, whoa! All right. So then I decided instead of making a comment there, I would come over here and make a comment. And so anyhow, make a long story short, and there's Sick. I went ahead and went live. I thought, well, here's the opportunity. It's on. It may not be on very long, so I'll go live now. If nobody shows up, ain't nothing lost, nothing gained. Just I said I was going to try to squeeze in time when technology would allow me to do so. Hey, Sick buddy, I'm hoping everything's. I know you was having a good time. I heard you tell the story. I listened. This thing right here has got really good. It works off AT&T, and I can hear you guys really well. And I've used it one time before. Y'all saw me use this for a live, and it don't work all that well going through AT&T because, once again, AT&T don't have much of a signal. But I heard you and Buck and all you guys were talking about right at last about the metric system and your quarts and your pints and your milliliters. Can you imagine? Try to imagine a coal mining, the son of a coal miner up in engineering, and they're talking everything in metric. Everything is in metric. And in fact, they have metric conversion charts for the illiterates like myself coming from Alabama that have limited knowledge when it comes to metrics. And so we had to go through all that stuff. But what made it easier for me than we had so many others now that also was in the same organization. They had no concept of anything when it comes to metric. But I was a ham operator, and I was explaining to 2-4 and some of the people who was listening a while ago, as a ham operator, all of our antennas are measured in meters. 40-meter antenna, 20-meter antenna, 10-meter antenna, 11-meter antenna, meters. And there's 3.2808 feet to a meter, 3.2808 feet to a meter. That's how many, that's the conversion, 3.2808. And we used to have to convert all of our, like antennas, if we're going to convert in feet and inches, because your antennas are measured in meters, we used to use 468 divided by the frequency to derive at the length in feet and inches. So when I got over in that portion and they was dealing with, they said, how do you know anything about metrics? I said, well, I've only been a ham operator for a long time. And they go, well, what does being a ham operator have anything to do with metrics? And I explained to them everything is done in meters, all your antennas, everything, all your measurements, everything. And they didn't know. Hey, Mr. Ben, my God, man, you're I told you that you're my hero, buddy. Motobomb and Sick and 2-4. I don't know if you guys have ever or they may be on your page as well. Ben here, Ben Tipton, this guy has skydived. Something I can never bring myself to do. I just don't have the stomach for it. My son, Mike, Michael's got, I think, 2,000 jumps. He spent like 22 years in the 101st Airborne. I think he's got like 2,200 jumps. He even did what's called high low, and see, high altitude, low opening. And he parachuted into the dew line up in the Arctic Circle up there. They have what's called the dew line, and he parachuted in up there. They flew from Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, in a C-141 and bailed out at 32,000 feet, breathing oxygen, and zipped down and chute opened at 750 feet. Poof. He said that was the most blessed sound he ever heard in his life, the explosion of that canopy in that 60 below zero air. He's, guys, if you don't know Ben here, he's in a wheelchair. This guy that's paralyzed in a wheelchair has skydived, and I ain't got the nerve to do it, and I got both legs. But his joke was he's already paralyzed. There was nothing to fear. Oh my God! Here come my little. Set it right here, babe.
There's meat in it.
Oh, there's some meat in it.
There's some meat.
Okay, I don't want a whole lot. I
split the rest of it between us.
Woo, that's hot. Woo.
Yeah, I want to make sure the nice bowl was nice and hot.
My little woman here has now brought me. Let me, if I can slide this over here real fast. This is my beef stew from yesterday.
Oh, we got to get that one again, though.
It was certainly good yesterday. I'm hoping it's going to be as good today. Let me
I
see
did
if
have
I
to
can
add more beef broth.
Oh, did you add some more? Oh, I heard a big chunk of beef. That's
Look,
good.
Like
no.
Oh, hold on. Let me show you.
What?
It would have been, give me the spoon. It would have been like this if I didn't.
Okay. Well, a lot of people like their beef really thick and everything, but that's sirloin beef tip that I used. Here's some carrots. Everybody loves to have carrots. It's more mushy looking today than it was. Oh, by the way, if you're guys that like to cook, one of the things you can add is barley. I got a hint from a cooking show when it comes to making the beef broth. A lot of people use, when you braise your meat, the flour that is on the meat when you braise it there, they use that as sort of like a thickening or roux, to make your broth thicker in the beef stew. But this cook, she said, using barley. Oh my God, does that ever add to the volume? And it's one of the best tips I've ever run across in making there's potatoes in there, but unfortunately, I think I eat them. Eric, look at right here. See, we got you some taters right there. And these potatoes are from Idaho that they boil up really good. Even though this is heated up second day, they're still not mush. They still have the shape of a potato. All right, enough of that. Let's get back over here. Get back into the. Okay. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. I guess by some luck, I got to run across Ben there, and I went over and looked at his page, and my heart just swelled with pride that he has such a quest for a living. Things that we take for granted, sick, Motobomb 2-4, we get the urge and the weather is good. We'll go out there and throw our ass on a motorcycle and gun that motor and hear that sound of that engine. And like when Motobomb gets on the punk in there, he can take that R2 and this H2 and, oh my God, that's music to my ears to hear the power and all that kind of stuff. So those that can find life that has the paralysis, that can find an enjoyable life, my God, what an inspiration that is for us that take that stuff for granted. You run across some really good people here. Um, you run across really good people here on the live streams. Um, Motobomb, you remember when we was up in Washington, I had my niece on her boat in the Cortez Sea. Um, when she was broadcasting live, she was on my live feed, and she got in here and sent out the video of her out there on the Cortez Sea, and we all enjoyed it. You to use the satcom when you're out at sea. Oh my gosh, it is so expensive. So what they do is they have to make their videos, and usually what they do is go into a port where they've got regular Wi-Fi, and then they can upload. But to do a live feed, because I was trying to encourage them to do live feeds because people love it, but it is expensive. Well, I remember my start when I was like 14 years of age. This guy that was in the Army, he was an Army veteran, so beloved in our community. He went to an auction and he bought a Army motorcycle that was servicing the troops overseas, and it was called a service cycle. And it was in OD green and all that stuff. And I fell in love with it. And he told me one time, he said, I will let you have that motorcycle if you'll, he had a series of jobs that need to be done at his home. And I agreed to do so. And I spent the biggest portion of the summer achieving those tasks. When I got the last thing done, he called me over there and he said, the motorcycle is yours. And he filled my tank up full of gas and he started it up and away I went. And well, I made it almost to home. He didn't fill it up with gas. He put some gas in the tank. Yeah. Oh yeah. That SpaceX, the, the, the link up system there, Elon Musk's this system. Oh, sure. The equipment is really expensive to have on your boat. The antenna is really expensive to have on your boat. Per hour of use while out at sea is really expensive. You have to pay a price for all these things. At home, you get it for $149 a month, but you don't get that when you're on a boat. It's a little bit different operation. And because at home, you're in a fixed geographical location using a string of the satellites that's talking to each other and stringed up so that linked up so that they got a broader coverage. Yeah, I've got the SpaceX program here, but unfortunately, I have not SpaceX. I have T-Mobile, which mine down here can only be serviced from a tower. I'm getting mine off a tower 7 miles away. And then Motobomb, you remember when I turned 16 years of age, when I was 16 years old, I got to ride my first Harley. And I got to say that it was love on the first ride. Oh my gosh, this is good. Oh, so you use T-Mobile when you're. I wish there's some way I could bring that up on the screen for those. I guess on YouTube you can't do that like you on StreamYard. You could highlight, what is being said across the screen so other people can see it as well. Gosh, that barley is so nice. Mm. I was trying to get some of that barley on a spoon so you could see it. There's some of the barley. I put a little bit too much in there. I mean, more than. That's good. First motorcycle I've been was a service cycle. I got it when I was 14 years of age, and it was I think like a 250cc bike built for the military. It was a 1948. The model was 48, but I didn't get it until I was like 1954. I was 14 years old. And then when I turned 16 years of age, a friend of mine, next door neighbor, he just come home from the army, and he took his money he had built up and went and bought him a new Harley. And he took me for a lot of rides on the Harley. And then one day he says to me, we was in the Mojave Desert. That was on June of 1956. And he said, would you like to drive it? I said, yes. I never turned nothing down like this. I took his bike, and he told me, I already seen how they shifted the gears, one down and three up, you only 4-speed in those days. And he said, I want you to go out there about a quarter of a mile, turn around and come back and go through all the gears. And then when you get close to me, gear down. And when you come to a stop, I want you to be in first gear with the clutch pulled in. And I did that. When I got out to the end of the quarter of a mile, I slowed down. I'd already geared down, went to make my turn, and then I crashed. Poof. I found myself face first in the Mojave Desert. And the bike was going, it was running. The back wheel was turning because it was still in gear. Because when it laid over on its side, the back wheel still turned in. I quickly grabbed a hold of the clutch, and just being young and energetic, I raised that bike straight up. I picked it up, got it back on its feet, and got on it. Never had to kick start it, and rode back down to him. And he said, well, you learned not to use them front brakes when you turn on a bike. I said, yep, you learned the hard way. I got my very first driver's license in Lancaster, California. I lived in the Mojave Desert, and I went down there and got my Lancaster. I got my driver's license. I love Lancaster. When I got grown and a grown man, I got sent to Edwards Air Force Base, and we used to go to Lancaster. We stayed at Muroc. We had a housing facility over there. It's called GSA housing in Muroc, and yeah, we worked on the YC-14. I got a picture of it on the wall here. The YC-14 was one that we built for a testing program for the U.S. military. Well, go enjoy your day off and get your back all cleaned up. We have to wash my back practically every time before we go for a ride. Because the cat messes it up. No, you don't poop on it or nothing, but he gets muddy tracks all over my back. When I got out into the field, I didn't do it in Montana, but as soon as I got down to Missouri, we went to Whiteman Air Force Base. Went out and bought me a new Honda CB 750. It's the one that had the. It was just really it was their crotch rocket. It was their fast one, and I had it. I think I put 14 or 1,500 miles on it, and then I saw the new Suzuki, and I went up there. I paid cash for that 750. I went up there at the Suzuki dealership, and I really fell in love with that 750 Suzuki because I was really big about reading Motor Trend and everything, and that Suzuki was faster than the Honda. So when I come back, we got to talking to my neighbor next door, and he said, "Man, if you're going to sell that Honda, I want it." So I arranged the deal for him to buy the Honda. And when he gave me the money to buy the Honda, I went up there and added some pocket change, went up there and bought that Suzuki. Oh man, we had we had 4-into-1 Kirker exhaust system on it, and it was good. I like that Kirker exhaust system. I put a 2-into-1 exhaust on my Harley on the other one I had, and this didn't have the sound that I liked. It was a real good name brand, over $1,000 for the exhaust pipe. And then we had it, took all that crap off, and yeah, that's the last one. Yeah, we didn't change. We left that 2-into-1. But when my next Harley I got, we went and put live exhaust on it, where it got rid of the catalytic converter and all that stuff, and the pipes come side by side all the way back, and they sounded really good. After I had my crash on my Harley two-wheeler, I when I come home, I had already bought a Harley trike. Um, After I had my surgery, I come home and she rolled me out there in a wheelchair. I still had the other Harley, but I got on that trike and went for a ride. I couldn't ride the other one because I couldn't count on both legs. I was only out of surgery a week, so got on that trike and I made a video of me out here riding in the yard on that trike. And then I got this trike here a couple of years ago, and we just logged in a lot of miles on it. There's quite a bit of stigma, that is self-imposed on trikes versus two-wheelers. It ain't a motorcycle. If you got three wheels, well, if you love riding, and there ain't nothing. You can ask. I ride with a lot of people. My buddy Joe, he's wide open all the time. Um, they don't have to ask. Where did Old Mac go? He stays up with any of them guys. Reasonably, there's all kinds of biking can outrun a trike, but we don't go out there racing people. But the thing is, it's not a dog. You turn that wick on and it'll throttle right on up through the gears. And you can go, it'll hit 80 miles per hour. Just the time you get up in the fourth gear, you're running 80 plus and got plenty of acceleration. So you don't have to worry about, it won't be enough power to give you a feeling of excitement, because they'll run. They handle like a dream, and using your arms to corner and do this kind of stuff. Um, at first, people will say, "Well, there's a learning curve." All it is you just have to work. You have to use both arms, when you're turning. Um, and so their suspension system is really good. I've never tipped mine. Man, I've never been up to the point where it's going to go over and nothing like that. They corner really amazing. Um, they're not going to run like a crotch rocket in a corner, but they do corner good. Well, if it allows you the freedom to ride a trike or to stay home and watch other people ride, I suggest go out and get yourself a trike and learn how to ride it. Set you up an obstacle course and learn how to do the cutting, or if you got a curvy road out in the country, I got one right over here. It goes way up this hillside, and it's just really like this. I went over and trained on it, so I can slide around the corners pretty good. You can throttle on, and you can hear the tires really biting for grip as you go around the corners, and yeah, they're excited to ride. Oh my God, the stuff you can haul! You ought to see us go grocery shopping in it. We'll put a 50-pound bag of dog food on the rack in the back. I think the weight limit is supposed to be right 35 pounds, but we put a 50-pound dog food bag, put a bungee cord over it, and hey, thank you, Ben, for coming and joining us today. And you're always welcome to come on my channel and others, people that run with me, and we're kind of cut from the same cloth. We believe in freedom and the expression of freedom. And there's nothing more freer than riding with your wind in your face and breeze on your knees and sun on your back. Or you may not be able to ride due to a handicap, but the fact remains that you have the spirit of a rider, and that's what counts, the spirit of a rider. You got that. Have a great day, Ben. That is really cool. I'll have somebody remind you to smash that like button. Um, and people have been doing really good about that. Somebody pointed that out to me, and I look over on the screen, and I can see I got 2 people in here and 2 thumbs up. So when they seen Old Mac start to eat soup and everything, they said, "Hey, I better go get me a tortilla." Sorry for eating in your ear, but it has to be done. That's what I like about this whole thing, Moto, is running across new people, new friends, um, and old friends. Oh, here comes the train. Oh, this is so good. I know I've said that 3 or 4 times, but little carrots and all those tomatoes really, they just really made this stew. What do they call them tomatoes again? They're, whatever they are. They're diced tomatoes, but they're particularly prepared. We got whatever what it was recommended for this beef stew. Well, it's lunchtime for a lot of people, so they're probably all doing their thing here this morning. I think I heard Buck Brown say he was over in Texas. I saw his Peterbilt truck a long time ago. You guys that don't drive, drivers used to call the Peter truck the Peterbilt truck. They call it the Peter car and the Peter car. And his is called Papa Smurf. And if you've ever been on the radio, the ham radio or the CB radio, if you're down on 27 megahertz, which would be 11 meters, CB band, you can hear Papa Smurf in New York. You can hear Papa Smurf in Marietta, Georgia, Tampa, Florida. You can hear Papa Smurf in Seattle, Washington, Billings, Montana. Papa Smurf is across the border. And Papa Smurf can run an unlimited amount of power on 27 megahertz. The law is still clear. 27 megahertz cut at 4 watts output. I think at PEP, they allow you to go up to 7.5 watts or some PEP watt number. But he runs maybe 20,000 watts, 50,000 watts. We don't know. Who knows? But he broadcasts. I like mothers. Mothers. That's what I like to use. I like mothers. I use it for my Mustang. My Mustang had a really nice candy apple paint on it. And so I got turned on using mothers. But I think I've still got a little bit left. I bought those 750 milliliter jug of mothers for like $27. But you just put a little bit in your washing container and it does a good job. Hey, Miss Lolly, we're eating beef stew and homemade beef stew in my festive red bowl, and it is so good. I used to wash my other bike at Armor All. I believe it's called Armor All car wash. And it's good on if you got what's that stuff they spray top coat? Yeah, if you got a top coat, you don't want the top coat damage. That worked really good. Well, Miss Lolly, how's your week going for you so far? I know it's pretty still early in Monday, but our weather's beginning to take a look for the better. It's warm. I probably after a while I could be stripped down into a t-shirt. Right now I got sleeves on. Well, when you get up to my age, another week is a blessing. You go, oh man, I'm hoping I make this whole week. It'd be nice. Oh, I don't envy anybody has to go to court. Ugh. Are you quite optimistic about the outcome of your situation? Is there any hope there? I really hope the best in your situation. Hey, Desert Outlaw. Yeah, don't, that's a good point, Desert. There's so many people that use dishwasher detergent to wash their cars and stuff, and man, you can go on the internet and there's hundreds of complaints about your clear coat. It damages it. You see a lot of cars that's got really damaged clear coat. Good looking automobiles, except you can see the breakdown in the clear coat, and that's been people that probably washed it in the parking lot or in the driveway, and use dishwasher detergent, John or Joy or several of those. I think it's just too strong for that paint because Dawn and everything is designed to cut grease and get to loosen the food up, and for the price you pay for these things, paying a little extra for the right soap to do your vehicle is a small price to pay compared to what it costs to refinish your clear coat. Well, Desert Outlaw, did you do anything exciting over the weekend? Anything you could tell on the air? Went up on the mountain to get some fresh air. Well, I thought about you the other day when Dave in Australia was over there riding along the coast, and then he went up on a mountain and he could see the ocean over there, probably the Indian Ocean. Oh, homemade fudge. I like fudge. And I thought about you, because right, in Phoenix they got that Superstition Mountain, and the scenery looked very much like Superstition Mountain with the cacti and all that stuff, and the sagebrush and stuff. Um, but then when you come around a corner and you can look right over to the right down there and you saw the Indian Ocean, that took all the notion of Phoenix away because there ain't no water around Phoenix. Well, a few little ponds, but you don't have no Indian Ocean. I tell you, some of the best eating when you find those little places, like a little mom and pop's place, where they actually cook everything right there. It's not cooked and put in the freezer and then taken out and then put in the oven warmed up. It's really nice to run across a place that makes. Oh, there's a place up here at Smith Lake. They make pies, and every time I go by, when they're open, they're not open on Monday, but when I go by and they're open, I'll stop in and I'll get the apple pie, the French apple or Dutch apple, they call it. Um, there's two or three of them I get. That is so good. We bought a jar of peach preserves up at the Amish. They was picked and processed and bottled into a jug at Falkville, Alabama, which is right close to Danville. And I had last night some peach preserves and peanut butter. I mixed it up. Preserves got little chunks of the peach in it. Oh, it was so good, man. I ate that for a dessert. Oh, Lolly peach preserves. They are so good. I like a peach cobbler up there at the Amish Cafe restaurant. They had the cobbler, but there was only a thin crust left. Most of the peaches been. But about a few more minutes later, after I went up there, they put all new containers out, and I should have went back up there because I didn't. But I always try to get that peach cobbler when I'm there. Because I remember being a boy in Alabama in the 40s. My mother would make a peach cobbler. It was so good. And our peaches came right off our tree in the backyard. Do you do a lot of canning, Lolly? Um, we used to do a lot of canning. Well, I used to can habaneros. I used to what they call dry pack habaneros. Habanero, we go out here in the garden, we'd pick a lot of habaneros, and we leave the stem on. We don't never cut them. We don't take the seeds out, and we put them in the oven. I believe at 140 degrees for about 2 or 3 hours, whatever it takes. When you get a hold of one, it'll crumble up like parchment paper. It's ready to pack. And then what we did in the last 15 minutes, we'd put the jugs in and bring the jugs up to the same 140-degree temperature, the mason jars, and then we would pack the jar full of habaneros, put the lid on it, and when that lid would suck down, 3 years later, you could open a jar of the habaneros, dried habaneros. Woo! I'm telling you, you better not be. You would never sniff them. They would knock the top of your head off. I like jam preserves. When I was a little boy, muscadines. We had two types of, like a big grape muscadine has a real thick skin on it, purple. And then we had what's called a scrapenine. I don't know, it's a family of the grape family, but it's of a different flavor. It has a little bit more tartness to it, a little bit more a sharper flavor. And then muscadine or scrapenine, it was really some good preserves because you get the little hulls in them. And of course, my mother would put away watermelon preserves. She would slice them, take the green off. You cut the green off. You had the rind and the red part, and they made the most beautiful can. You open a jar, a big old quart jar of watermelon preserves. It's just hard to beat. You might check in. I know up in Washington State, there's a place called Othello, Washington. It happens to be on a volcanic slope, in a place it's called the Royal Slope. Comes down into Othello, and on that slope there grow some of the best watermelons in the world. They are so huge and so just mostly all meat, that has some seeds in it, but oh my gosh, you talk about some of the best watermelons I've had. You'd think, or Alabama and Arkansas. See, in central Washington, it's a desert. That's where all the volcanic flows are along the Columbia River. And the soil is volcanic ash, millions of years of age, and it is so rich. All you got to do is just add water to it, and it becomes like river bottom land. Produces some of the best melons, cantaloupes, all the way from central Washington all the way down into Southern California. That whole place going down through the middle of Oregon, and then down all the way down to the Sierra Nevada range and the Olympic and the coastal range. You got the San Joaquin Valley, which stretches out for hundreds of miles, and it grows really good melons as well. Oh man, I never had banana preserves. Strawberries I've had, watermelon I've had, peaches of course, grapes and apple preserves. My mother, my mother made apple butter, and oh, on a cold winter day to open up a brand new jar, not applesauce now, apple butter. And it's just a darker, richer flavor of apple. The apple butter is, in my opinion, and we loved it. Oh, we love the apple butter. And my mother was really big about every year making sauerkraut, because when we was kids, one of our favorite meals is my mother would take wieners. We call them weenies, but now the proper, I guess, say wiener. Oscar Mayer wiener, not a weenie. But she'd cut them weenies up and she'd fry them in the skillet and roll them around and get them all nice and fried. And she'd take a quart jar of her sauerkraut and she'd drain the water off and she would dump that in on these fried weenies in that hot grease, and she'd stir them around and we'd have kraut and wieners, and smoked sausage. I had one time an opportunity to get a lot of summer sausage from Montana that was elk meat, elk and antelope and elk, and I think there was some beef in it, but they made a summer sausage. Jalapenos, man. Let me tell you, one time Ruth prepared these jalapenos. She was going to stuff them and then wrap them in bacon. I think she had a mixture of, I can't remember what she, I believe she had like crab meat or maybe it could be, I think it's crab meat and a cheese that she mixed this up in a bowl and she cut the jalapenos in half, right down the middle and went in there and put all the stuff in there. And then she put the other half together and then she wrapped them in bacon and stuck a toothpick in it. Now you got a whole jalapeno stuffed full of meat and cheese and wrapped in bacon, and she'd bake them in the oven. Oh my God. But let me tell you, she prepared a couple of dozen of these. When she was going to make them, she made a lot of them. And then she leaves the kitchen. We are in there, and she comes into the bathroom, and pretty soon she come back into the kitchen area. And after a while, she began to look like she was a little antsy about something. Couldn't hardly stand still. I said, "What's the situation?" She said, "My hoodie is on fire." I said, "What?" She said, "My hoodie is on fire." she, she had that jalapeno, uh, that capsaicin all on her skin because when she opened them up, it was all in her skin. And a woman being a woman, she done got wiped a little bit too close with that tissue there and set her hoodie on fire. Hootie and the Blowfish. It was oh man, she kind of danced around on the end of her toes. It finally went away, but that was the day she got caught on fire. Yeah, you should scrub them hands, man. I'm talking about scrubbing them. If you just rinse them off under the sink, it don't do nothing. It's in the pores of your skin. And whatever you don't touch the eyeball. Oh, you only need to be told that one time. You reach up there and do this with your eye after cleaning a bunch of habaneros, or habaneros even worse than jalapenos because the fumes just leaches right into you. Yeah, we made salsa and we put the jalapenos, ground them up. She got the blender over there. She hit them and kind of diced them up a little bit, and then she started folding the other stuff. And we had peeled all these. We'd parboiled the tomatoes so we could take the skins off. We didn't want to have skins in our salsa, so we peeled the tomatoes and put them. We packed them jars full of and peppers and all that stuff. Oh my gosh, we didn't cold pack them, but she put them in the jars and they was cooked in the jar in the pressure cooker with all that stuff. Prepping of salsa, it's quite a chore, but oh, the flavor you get from fresh made salsa. The problem with fresh made salsa, you open up a quart of it and you got to eat a lot of salsa real fast because it'll go bad on you. But if you make them in the smaller jars, then you can leave them in the refrigerator for quite a while and they won't go bad because everything you get in the store has preservative in it, and those things will kill your liver. The preservatives will keep your food fresh but kill you. So you got a choice there. If you make your own stuff, it's better, but you gotta, once you open them up, you just can't be careless with them. You gotta eat them. And then canning, a lot of can tell you there are certain things that you got to be really careful with. Common things out of your garden like green beans. Green beans, you have to be careful in the canning process of green beans. It can get botulism or some other things that could harm you. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, and also go on. I do too. We do too. In fact, you've seen this. We like to eat them fresh. She washes me off a jalapeno, bring it here, and I eat it while I'm having chili. I like the crispness of it. I'll eat it right off just right. Hold on to the stem. Eat it right down to the stem. Yeah, YouTube is also another great way to learn to can or canning techniques. Your mama might have showed you how to can, but things have changed. Or maybe your grandmother showed you how to can, but things they did back during grandma's days doesn't apply today because your vegetables, a lot of people put different kinds of fertilizer and stuff like that in it. And also bug spray. People spray their vegetables with things, and they don't thoroughly wash them. Keep the cut worms down and all that stuff. You're always tending to your garden. You always my wife was such a stickler on no spray. She made up a soap and had her spray bottle. And when she saw the little aphids and stuff, she would spray the plants with this soap material. She was just so anti-chemicals about putting stuff into our food. And that may be a mute subject because she only lasted 83 years. Oh yeah, that's right. You really have to sort out stuff you get off YouTube. You don't take everything at face value. I had a good friend. He's no longer with us. He was an advocate of DDT, and he went on a screaming tirade. Every time you get on the ham radio with him, he'd go on a screaming tirade about what the damn government's doing, taking that our beautiful DDT away from us because DDT, everybody knows DDT, you put in the garden, it really cleans the garden up. And he'd have screaming fits about it. But he died because over the years, he continued using DDT as long as he could get it. And the toxicity had built up and it killed him at a real young age. So, yeah, when we was little kids, there used to be TV ads on the TV telling you better living through chemicals. Monsanto Corporation and Dow and several other chemical companies would push the narrative that your life is going to be better with chemicals. And you see the mutated life forms that's walking amongst us today, brought to us by Monsanto. There's nobody in their right mind that is not chemically altered that would go into a church and kill people or go into a high school and kill people. Your mind has got to be saturated with too much of better living through chemistry. I remember, and all of you guys do, 9 out of 10 doctors said they preferred Carlton cigarettes was so good for you because they used the asbestos filter. The asbestos removed every bit of nicotine from your lungs. And the asbestos is going to kill you. And it did. So, 9 out of 10 doctors. And I remember when they used to tell women, you really can't ever be a full liberated woman until you can smoke a cigarette. So we have developed a cigarette just for women. It's got 98% more nicotine. Oh, life is good. You can't hardly get anybody to say, oh man, get yourself a bong and light you up some good kush. Life is going to be better. They go, oh no, hell no. We got to ban that darn wacky tobacco, and we got to get more we got to get more nicotine in our cigarette, man. That's what's missing. That's what, almost in anything, they always say, just follow the money. There was a corporation called Philip Morris. When I was a little boy, the most beautiful sounds I had ever heard in my life is when some of the early TV shows would come on, and a little bitty bellhop boy would come into the scene on the camera, and he'd say, call for Philip Morris. We love that sound. Along about 1953, chemists said, sir, if you want people to smoke more Phillips cigarettes, you just add more nicotine. And so they changed their formula in 1953 so you'd get a higher level of nicotine to give you that kick that you need to get your day started. Even the Marlboro man, he ain't with us no more. Well, we used to, when I was in I used to work up at the lab and at the company. They talked about toxicity and what was the threshold of toxicity for the human body. And they talked about how much toxicity lead influenced the human body. They talked about toxicity of various chemicals. So the person that was given the dissertation on that day, we came to a question and answer session. I raised my hand and I asked him, how about a cocktail of toxicity? He said, a cocktail of toxicity. I said, well, if you've reached the threshold and the amount of lead that you can ingest and the amount of chemicals you can ingest from various chemicals that you soap that you wash your hands with, stuff you put under your arms for smell, you're absorbing aluminum oxide and all the different chemicals that you can put under your armpits, throat lavengers that's got stuff in it, all the, like Lottie said, there nicotine in so many different products. Could you have such thing as a cocktail of toxicities where you speak about singular toxicities? How about absorption rate of many attacks of toxicity? And he was stumped by that because nobody had ever asked him that question before. Yes, the human body can they have a threshold of various toxicities, but the accumulation, the attack from so many fronts, the cocktail of toxicity, and it has changed mankind as we know it today. Desert Outlaw, haven't you ever went to church and a preacher would be up there, and if you do this, you're going to go to hell, and if you do this, you're going to go to hell, and if you've done that, you are going to go to hell and burn in a lake of fire. And you always felt like they was talking about you. You know, Desert sitting over there, we're talking about all this nicotine and I don't think none of us probably, I'm not setting in judgment of anybody. I'm just quoting some statistical facts about life itself. I smoked them, boy. I'll tell you what, my favorite cigarette was the Salem cigarette.
Ew.
I was a menthol smoker.
Ew.
You never knew me when I smoked Salems, did you?
I've only known you for the last 30-something years, so no.
You've only known me how many years?
I've only known you for like the last 30-something years, so no. That's
35.
I didn't even know you smoked.
35 or 36 years.
I didn't even 35.
35? Okay, 35 years.
I didn't even know you smoked before.
Yes, I did. I did
Ew.
smoke. I'm having a debate with Angelique about the years I smoked. I used to smoke under my hood when I was a welder. I go, hell, if the damn welding smoke's going to kill you. I'd put this, because the company came up with a non-smoking policy, and I'd have the cigarette in here. The smoke coming out of the top of my helmet up there was just some more smoke. How could you tell the difference between welding rod smoke and cigarette smoke?
I did not know that about you.
I did, honey.
Shame on you.
I know. It's hard for me to.
Now.
Let me apologize to you now. They say that's the reason I'm old and grumpy is when I smoke.
Shit, Sherlock.
Go on, get now.
Bye.
All right. Appreciate
Love you.
it. Thank you. I'm glad you finished off with I love you.
Bye. You want some puppy chow?
No, I'm good to go.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes you squirm in your seat when people talk about your favorite subject. And let's just say that we spent the morning this morning talking about Harleys. Harley this and Harley that. And the guy sitting over there on his 3-cylinder rocket, his Triumph, or his H2, or his moped. They go, wait a minute, I ride too. Yeah, but it ain't the same. It ain't a Harley. Well, so it's easier for a person that doesn't have the addiction to the nicotine now that I had then. If you'd have gave me the same, if I'd have heard the same speech that you just heard about all the dangers of chemicals over here, back when I was 22 years of age, I'll go, what the hell is he talking about? You ain't gonna take my Salems away. Salems, take me away. Yeah, I smoked them Salem cigarettes. One time, Desert Outlaw, we was at a little grocery store in a little town called Graysville, Alabama. And the cigarette tobacco jobber, the guy that delivers, he takes sales, what kind of more, how much more tobacco you're going to need, and all that kind of stuff. He's the guy that's going to have his distributors to bring you the extra tobacco and whatever. And so when he'd come out after he finished his sales pitch to the grocery store owner, we'd ask him, do you have any free samples? And the guy said, you know, and usually they give you a little packet that had 4 cigarettes in it, a free pack of Camels, a pack of Chesterfields, or, you know, various brands. And he said, doggone it. He looked over, he said, all I got is Picayune cigarettes. You boys want Picayunes? Oh, hell yeah, we want some Picayunes. So he gave us 4 little Picayunes. He gave us several little boxes full of Picayunes, 4 to each pack. So after we get the opportunity, we lit up a Picayune. Oh my God, you've got to be a man to smoke a Picayune. Oh my God. Listen to this. I was so good at welding stainless and welding copper. When I was on one of the projects that's on this wall over here, it had to have these, we had to build these copper, it had to be welded copper, and I used a TIG process to weld copper. And I welded all of them for 900 units. I made all the parts for 900 Minuteman units out of copper. And my hair started turning green hair. I was dark headed until I was 40 years of age. I was black haired. And then I began to get gray salt and pepper look, but the gray part was turning green. Somebody mentioned to me, they said, your hair is green. And I got to look at my arm, and I had long hair on my arms, and I could see there was some green in the hair. So I went down to the infirmary, and they took a sample of my hair, and it had high concentrations that's in copper. When you weld copper, I can't remember what the chemical was, but it went into my system and came out through my hair. Just like if you smoke marijuana, I can pull a sample of your hair and tell how long you've had, how much marijuana you got in your system and this kind of stuff. That's when you're a truck driver, they can do that. They can sample your hair and find out if you're under the influence of marijuana. And anyhow, the hair shows a lot of stuff, it warns you that you've got too much of something in your system. And then my elbows started to hurt. Both elbows started to hurt. And then as we found out more, come to find out the concentration of copper, well, it would settle in around your joints and your arms. You use so much in everything you do. And I began to feel pains in the elbows. And so that it was a warning that my body had already reached the threshold for copper. And then on all the flyaway stuff it went into space, I welded in my purge tank, and in these purge tanks, and you stick your hands inside the gloves and you weld inside here. But when I'd open the door to get my parts out, it was welded stainless, that I would get a big blast of heat, of course. And in that heat was particles. Come to find out, stainless is extremely dangerous to weld. We didn't know this until they come up with a thing called the MSDS book. And every workstation is required by law to have an MSDS book. When I read about how dangerous stainless was, what is so good about stainless, it is so clean to work with. You don't get dirty when you're working. You don't have the oxidation, and beautiful welds. The welds are so pretty, especially if you weld a stainless pipe. It has that little color band change, the temperature as it radiates out into the pipe. Really is pretty. Yeah, it has. Now I'll tell you where you really get your pretty colors is titanium. We used to weld titanium, and we use a TIG process in titanium. And when you had a curvature, you'd have to weld these sections to get this curvature. And that blue, that color was so beautiful. And titanium is really an outstanding color patterns. One of the most horrible things that can happen to the human body is to ingest this smoke and fumes off galvanized steel, whether you're grinding it or welding it. Galvanized has put many a man down. Oh, buddy, I'm sorry. Did I miss something sick? Oh, did I was busy talking. I might have missed you, buddy. Whatever you need to do, you have to do what you got to do, buddy. I appreciate you come back. Yeah, grinding. See what happens when you weld? You got smoke, and if you could take a sample of that smoke and looked at it, it's particles of the material you're working with. So it's little tiny particles and much smaller. But when you grind it, it's larger. But between those large chunks, which does not go into your lungs, it may go into your mouth and you can spit that out. But the smaller particles goes into the lungs from the grinding. You can look this up for yourself. There's an alloy. It's called Invar 36. Invar, I-N-V-A-R, Invar 36. Invar 36 was developed for the lunar project and for many projects that we had that went into space. But also was developed to put stuff into an autoclave where you bring the temperature up to 900 degrees, and then you take it out and you use that when you're working with graphite composite. Invar is 36% nickel. It's the most hazardous material that you can ever weld or grind. If you look in the MSDS book, it refers to grinding as deadly as welding. Welding requires that you wear an environmental suit to weld it. You have to have an air pump. Pressure inside the helmet's got to be so much pressure in the helmet, and so you have to wear an environmental helmet to weld Invar. And we welded Invar for 3 years with no protection whatsoever until they came down and gave us a warning. What happened is we had all these women that our part that we welded up would be sent down and put on the assembly line, and women was polishing the Invar, grinding and polishing the Invar. And they began to have miscarriages. And some of them didn't miscarriage. They carried the baby to full term and it was malformed. And what they found inside the baby was the Invar. The material was in the liver of the baby, the embryo of the baby, the miscarriage or the full term baby from Invar. And then they said, oh, hell. And what happened? Over $1 billion worth of lawsuits came from the people that was making. We developed Invar, our company did, in the laboratory. Them with other people that are involved. Boeing don't have a smelter where they make their own stuff. We make the chemical composition of Invar, and they can smelt it anywhere. And then we end up using it for autoclave work, where you send stuff into an autoclave and keep it up to temperature at 900 degrees with 2 earth vacuums on it to pull air bubbles out of graphite composite. Oh, I didn't know Mr. Gregory had a show going on. I didn't look ahead. I should have looked ahead, I guess. Well, I've been on here for 2 hours. I could go ahead and get off. Yeah, there's a lot of things that can harm you, and I know of people that live righteous lives and they died really early. I think when your time is up, it's up. Yeah, some people like motorbomb there, he grind and finished stuff in his dad's shop, and he's still alive, uh, and doesn't appear to be suffering any ill effects. And I know people that smoked all their life. They smoked till they died. I had an uncle. They removed his throat and everything. They put a hole right here in his neck. He smoked Chesterfields, and he would put his finger over the hole and he'd go. Then he'd blow it out the hole right here. He could blow smoke rings out of that chrome hole. We'd all gather up as kids, and he couldn't speak. He'd go, I want another cigarette. Would you light me a cigarette? We did. We lighted a cigarette for him, because we wanted to see him blow the smoke out of the hole. I think he made it. So he was in his 50s when he went. He went pretty early. He loved Chesterfields. I should have been a robot. We listened to him talk through he had a voice machine, and his wife was Ethel. That was my aunt. Come here, Ethel. I need you now. And she'd have to come in, and he had a little machine, and she'd stick the hoses up his nose, 2 of them up his nose. He had a little machine, a little pump over there, and it sucked the mucus and everything out. We'd all the kids gather around, watch the mucus go through the hose into that container over there, and then she'd run the water or whatever, soapy, salty water, and pump it through his nose. And we'd sit and watch it go up the hose and then come back out the other side. And so, well, actually, in reality, that was really good training, because when my wife got cancer and they removed her breast, she had these hoses over here under her arm that, I don't know what it did, but she had these little jugs that I had to change the little jugs for her, little round tubes like this. I had to change them, and we had a procedure of sterilizing them so we could reuse them. There's so many things that they had to remove, I guess, a lot of his larynx or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, that little machine it allows them to speak, so it makes that harmonical sort of like vibrating sound. And that ain't a way to get Monday started. I'm telling you, that is a depressing thought. Yeah, voice box. Yeah, there's so many things that they have got out there to aid people, to help them get through their handicap periods. They got this artificial intelligent voicing thing. I mean, it is unbelievable. If they take a few samples of your voice, they can reproduce it and make you say anything in the world. And I like to listen to him, and I'll be watching the show, and I don't know that this is an AI guy until he begins to get into numbers and stuff. And instead of saying number 34, it would, this is 34 days. They'd go 3-4 days later, 3-4, I guess it couldn't. What some of the words it can't do really good. It just, yeah, you hear a lot more AI voices. Oh Lord, that's a Peter Frampton. Oh, Lottie, that's got to be a horrible thing, but I guess you do almost anything, whatever it takes to try to live just that, and inevitable. Probably. Yeah, I saw that little stuff with the colon, but we're still here. It's a tough thing to face, losing a loved one. But I think they've got so many ways now to relieve the burden on the person that's suffering. They have pain management systems. I don't know how many of y'all have had a relative, maybe a loved one or an elderly, like a parent, that was suffering from dementia. And one of the things that happens in dementia is that you really forget how to swallow. You don't know to swallow. You don't know how to swallow. And when you get really bad, they put you on hospice. And on hospice, they do everything to make your training. So they do everything to make your last days or hours as comfortable as possible. And every one of them goes through. I've had so many relatives that goes through the same situation. They have a medicine called end of days. You can look it up. Look up on the internet. You can type in medicine end of days, and hospice people prescribe that for you. And you can take an eyedropper and you put a couple of drops along the side of the tongue, and they immediately get very relaxed. And you give this to them only after it's been prescribed. It's called end of days. No suffering, no agonizing screaming, just a peaceful exit from this world. End of days. Look it up. If you have a relative that's suffering and they have been classed as time was had run out, they will give them end of days. You give it to them as prescribed, and you become very peaceful. "30 years. Ruth and I, we were together 33 years. Oh, sick. I gave that to my mom in a syringe for 2 weeks, so she would. Yeah, okay. You know what I'm telling you. The end of days is truly a miracle, and this aspect is it alleviates all the pain. And I tell you what is strange. Yeah, we gave it like in an eyedropper, and I tell you, it is so regulated that when they came out, when they declared her, I checked and she died, and I was looking her in her eyes, and I closed her eyes, and so I called them because they told me they thought she'd last 24 hours, but she only lasted 4 or 5 hours. Um, when they came out, they weighed the content of that bottle and put it in a journal to record that they received back. They knew how many ounces. So I mean, I didn't, they knew I would never overdose her because she said the first thing she said, you cannot overdose them. It simply the body will reject it, and so you don't feel like you're guilty that you put too much in their mouth because you're shaking your hands shaking anyhow when you're trying to give it because you're so afraid. Yeah, ain't that something? Well, this lady, when she came back, well, she was the same one that said she had probably last 24 hours. Her kidneys had shut down, and she came back out, and she said, she told me how many people that in her 12 years of doing hospice work, how many she's been, and she'd only been off a little bit. She said, when we say 12 hours, that is as long as possible she could hold out. She could go anytime within the 12 hours. Yeah, it is a morphine. That's right. It's a morphine base, and it is just a powerful. Those people at the drugstore, when I went over and filled the hospice, people wrote me the prescription, and I went to CVS and had it filled, and they looked up at me, and they knew what I was going to go through because they delivered that product to a lot of people here in my area. Well, I mean, I'm hoping this dreadful conversation we're on will take a turn for the better. Sick, it's your job to kind of get us back on an even keel. Yeah, the yellow color comes with the liver failure. John does. Yeah, we want to make this an upbeat the rest of the way through. Oh, look! Oh, did I do that thing? Did I put my hand out the wrong direction? Froggy went a courting and he did right on. They're 205.15s. 205. They're like R 205.15. Yeah, for the back, 205.15s. That's on the new one. On the other one, I had R305 Z-rated Hankook, 12-inch rims, 12-inch wide rims. Yeah, on to the next adventure. Yeah. I don't know how many of y'all got to see this. I put this on earlier, but most of y'all hadn't showed up yet. I know Motorbomb and them have seen it. look at technology. We were talking about welding. In fact, this side might look a little bit better. I don't know. We was talking about welding. That stainless steel right there. Look at that. Look at those fins. Look at the scales, and look at the thickness of it. That's half-inch stainless steel, and it's cut with water. That's water jet. So precise, so sharp. I mean, these will cut you. They're so sharp, sharp as a razor up here. I wish you could see the edges. There's no way that the camera can focus well enough to be able to see the edges. But my God, them things are sharp. Maybe against the background of my skin, these edges are real sharp. That was cut with water. 70,000 pounds per square inch pressure. That was cut by my nephew, my sister Connie's son. He had this big company that did that kind of work. Yeah, from cutting on water, seamless. There's no edges. In other words, there's no. In other words, you don't see no cut marks in here. There's no cut marks. None of this has been polished. None of it. This is just as it came out of the water jet, just like you see it. This is how it came out. I think that's a barracuda. I believe that's what that's called, a barracuda. It looks like a piranha. Yeah, we built up here on the wall. I was one of the chief inspectors at PHM. I was a non-destructive testing guy. Means that we didn't cut them apart. Non-destructive, dye penetrant, X-ray. Yeah, we made I think 200. I think we made 200 of those boats, PHMs for the Navy, and they run on 2 gas turbine engines that had this huge pump. That pump would not fit in my room. That pump was bigger than my room here, because here's how big the pump is. They broke one in Argentina. They hit a whale at about 50 miles per hour, and they sucked the whale into the water intake, and it went in and it swelled the pump up and broke the housing. And I had to go inside, and I walked in to the water inlet side. I'm 6'1", and I walked into it through the water intake and got up in there on my ladder and welded the housing. And yeah, that was a pretty good size. They had 2 of those pumps that ran the boat. The boat is 200 foot long. It's called a PHM. That's the Pegasus class. In fact, Angelique had a shirt on yesterday, a sweatshirt that had Pegasus on it. We built them for their hydroplanes. They fly up on top of the water on 15 foot. It's got a wing under the water, and you can rotate that wing to make it rise, and you can get up and make it fly, get up as high as you can lift it up in the water. And yeah, they're truly amazing. There's a lot of them around. But yeah, they hit that one. The Navy hit that one down in Argentina, off the coast of Argentina. And the boat bobbed around in the water out there, and they brought it up to us. They had a helicopter to lift the pump up. They brought the pump up. They finally got it to us. They brought it to McCord Air Force Base, and then they came over and brought the pump in to my workstation. And I went inside there and made the pump work. It was cheaper to repair it and get it back on. When they got it back down to Pensacola, it was working out of Pensacola. When the PHM got back to Pensacola, Florida, then they would send they got a new pump and put on it. That patch job we done, it was just to get it back to Pensacola. I tell you another little project I got to do that I am so proud of. One time they called me and asked me if I would come to a building. It was called the 65 building, which means nothing to you guys at all, but it was a place we knew that was high priority. So I go down to the 65 building, and they had in the 65 building an airplane sitting in the building. Now, you can, all this I'm telling you can look it up on the internet. It's right there on YouTube. We made an airplane back in the 20s. It looked just like Ford's Tri-Motor, but the Boeing company made this Tri-Motor airplane. I think it was called the Dash 80 or Model 80. I don't remember what model it was, but a long time ago, before there was a United Airlines, there was Boeing Airlines. Boeing made the engines, Boeing made the airplane, and Boeing had their own airline service called Boeing Airlines. 3 radial engines. It looked like the Ford Tri-Motor. And they was like the Peterbilt that Buck Brown was driving. It was the top of the line. It was a really amazing craft. But what happened, they had one parked in Alaska, and the Boeing company decided they would spend millions of dollars to refurbish it and put it all back the way it was originally and send it to a museum in Wright-Patterson, the big old museum up there, of their Tri-Motor. But when they was bringing it down, they had to bring it down in sections. An 18-wheeler that was hauling the wings had a collision in Alaska on the ice and damaged one of the wings. So they got it down and they was reassembling the aircraft in the 65 building. And they took me in there and asked me if I could repair the wing. What happened is the wing was made of tubular steel and covered in a metal fabric, like corrugated aluminum for strength. And but the tubing in the old days was all gas welded. And they asked me, could I TIG weld it? If I brought out a portable TIG unit, set it up, I could get up there and they had they had a jig set up so we could weld all the parts that they had to cut out all the broken and bent parts in that wing. And they had it set there by the engineering drawing of 1920s, whatever year it was, 29 maybe. And so I went in there and they had all that tubing. I welded all the tubing up for that wing so they could cover it back up. And that was such a nice project. I was so happy they called on me to be a part of that. And I welded it up. What we did is, see, in the old days, it was gas welded. So your oxyacetylene was that way they set the tip up for the heat they needed. It would purge the area they was brazing in, and you didn't get the oxidation. It's really a good process of welding. But what we did is we got into the wing section And where all the pipes and plumbing came in, we pumped in helium gas for a shielding process, what's called backside shielding. We put helium in the tubing that we was welding, and then we welded it so that we didn't have any oxidation, and it made it 100%. Now, this plane was never to fly again, so we wasn't trying to make it airworthy, but it had to be as realistic as possible. And we got it done. They got the skins back on, new skins, and it made it. They took put it down in the museum. See, when the project first came in, it was going to be sent to Ohio, but they ended up moving it to their own museum in Seattle, Washington, on East Marginal Way. If you ever get to Seattle, go to East Marginal Way, and there's the big museum sitting right there at Boeing Plant 2. And you'll see my airplane that I worked on, the tri-motor, hanging in the ceiling. I think it hauled about 15 or 20 passengers. And then right after in the 20s there, the president of the United States wanted to break up the Boeing company because they monopolized all aviation. So they made them give up their engine division. There was a guy, the company took over was Pratt & Whitney, and the airlines itself, Boeing Airline, was given a brand new company called United Airlines. United Airlines was Boeing Airlines. So they had to break the company up so they wouldn't have a monopoly. There was a bunch of stuff going on back in them days. I hope I've still got a signal. It looks like we got a signal. All right, we're down to 3 people, and y'all heard enough of my whining and complaining for one day. Y'all can only handle a small dose at a time. But I promise tomorrow I will not be so depressing. But Monday, you want to get all your depressed stuff out by Monday so you can have the rest of the week flittering around like a butterfly, enjoying life. That's what I want to do. I suggest you give it a try. We've been on here for 2 hours and 34 minutes. I appreciate everybody. Oh, I this morning I saw on your coffee, extra coffee, and more coffee on top of that coffee. I saw your caffeine show when Ray was doing a burnout in the garage, and you guys were laughing at him. I watched you on the phone. I didn't have no Wi-Fi, but I watched you on AT&T, and he was doing a burnout, and y'all was laughing at him because he started sliding forward, and everybody thought for a moment there it was going to go through the back wall. An old biker boy. I started doing burnouts. I had a brother-in-law to build a fuel bike for drag racing. It weighed 219 pounds, and we ran it on fuel. And it was a 750cc Triumph. Now, I know they didn't make a 750cc Triumph, 650 Triumph Bonneville that he used Norton rods and stuff. And in other words, was able to bore it out and put a sleeve in it and made it 750cc on fuel. We run what's called a monoblock. And he let me, he had broke his back and he wasn't able to ride. So he asked me to give it a ride. And I went out on the street and I did a burnout. He had a 4-inch wide slick, 4-inch wide, wasn't very big, little slick tire like that. And I did a burnout out there on that thing. And it was awesome. It weighed 219 pounds. The bike did by itself. It had like maybe a quart and a half of gas in where the down tube is from your neck on the handlebars. It came down. That was your fuel tank. And It had what they call a bonsai motor in it. You ran it to it blew. And I revved the hell out of that thing. But then when I got my crotch rockets down there at Whiteman Air Force Base, I almost got a ticket for doing a burnout on that crotch rocket, the one I sold my next door neighbor. They don't like for you to do burnouts on government property. But I did see that. And I'm looking forward. You sent me some. Okay, I'll check them out. Second, you guys have a good rest of the day. We'll probably see you again. I see my TV's off over here because you can't have the TV on and this too. I found that I can get more time on the air if I leave the TV off, turn everything off in the house, and dedicate everything from the box right here to the TV. Because see, it takes when you're doing live feed, it takes upload. You have to upload. TV is all download, and the camera required you have to have upload speed, and I didn't have no upload. 3 megabytes of upload, not enough to support an upload. Excuse me. All right. Thank you very much for each and every one of you that paid me the courtesy to come over and visit me. And anybody have any last words to say? If not, we'll go ahead and pull the plug on this. All right. For everybody, hold your peace. We'll see y'all next time around. Uh-oh. Thank you, Lolly. You too. God bless you and the endeavors and all the trials and tribulations with the court systems there. I just wish you the very best. Sick. Giving you the old hand wave here. And we'll be seeing you from time to time, every time I get a chance. And yeah, I wanted to talk to you guys this morning, but I was just struggling to exist on the internet. With that, we'll say, God bless. Cheerio.